We archive the strange, the forgotten, the pieces of history that don't quite fit. Welcome to Lost Lore AI. Tonight, we open a file pieced together from fragments of corrupted media. A warped hard drive found floating in the Pacific, its casing scarred by salt and pressure. What survived inside were partial logs, scrambled audio, and degraded video frames, fragments belonging to a vanished deep-sea research mission. What you are about to hear is not myth or folklore. It is reconstruction. Their work began as science, but it ended with something else, something that, to this day, has not been explained. The file opens with the routine precision of oceanography. The RV Cassini, a privately funded vessel, had been at sea for 19 days. Its crew of biologists and engineers tasked with monitoring hydrothermal vents along the Mariana Trench. They were testing new sensor packages designed to survive pressure at 11,000 meters, recording temperature shifts, chemical leaks, and seismic rumblings. For them, this was a chance to map unseen ecosystems. For the funders, it was a chance to prospect for resources. The first week was uneventful. Cold calculations, dark screens, the quiet hum of machines running deep below. But then, the data stream changed. At 3:17 hours, the audio feed from a probe stationed near the trench began carrying an unfamiliar sound. Not static, not seismic chatter. A hollow metallic knock, so faint at first it was dismissed as equipment strain. But within hours it repeated. 3 beats, evenly spaced. Then silence. Then again. The file shows the team's early attempts to filter it. They assumed interference. A misfiring accelerometer. An anchor chain groaning against currents. Yet the probe was anchored miles beneath them, in absolute stillness, where no chain should echo, and no current could drum against steel. Over days, the knocking grew clearer, more deliberate. It carried a rhythm that resisted dismissal. The biologist, Dr. Haley Mirek, logged the first formal observation. Pattern non-random. Repetition interval stable at 14.3 seconds. Acoustic profile consistent with metallic origin. Source triangulated, 10.9 kilometers depth, trench wall. She did not call it life. She did not call it intelligence. She only called it consistent. The audio files grow stranger as the team tried to push analysis further. They stripped away water interference, isolating the Knox waveform. What emerged was unnerving. Not only stability, but modulation. Slight fluctuations in amplitude aligned with the team's own sonar pings, as though the source below were not simply knocking, it was adjusting in response. When they pinged, it knocked. When they fell silent, it fell silent too. The data reads less like geology, more like dialogue. By the mission's 12th day, the ship's engineers had run spectral decomposition on the knock. What they uncovered should not have been possible. The waveform carried harmonic layers, stacked like chords, resolving into intervals found in no known ocean process. It was too clean, too deliberate. Athena, the ship's onboard AI, marked it as non-geological anomaly and flagged it for external review. Yet, there was no uplink. They were weeks from shore. What remains is their private attempt to interpret the impossible. The narrative fragments become frantic as the team tested a hypothesis. Could the knocks be mathematical? They began tapping controlled sequences into the water with active sonar bursts, prime numbers, short rhythmic codes. The file shows the response came within minutes. The anomaly answered with mirrored sequences, each knock delayed by the exact interval of signal travel. And then, in one log, Haley's voice. It's not just answering. It's correcting us. The corrected patterns, when translated into numerical ratios, aligned with waveforms familiar to any physicist, harmonic progressions, Fibonacci intervals, base 2 repetition. What had begun as sound now resembled a code. The file's timestamps confirm the chilling escalation. What began as 3 hollow beats had evolved into complex sequences, compressed messages too rapid for human interpretation. Only Athena could keep pace, and its logs, degraded but legible, show that it was translating knocks into structured data. Binary matrices, prime grids, recursive spirals. The AI labeled them possible information exchange. The deeper into the trench they listened, the more the crew's language shifted. The official logs speak of source resonance and acoustic emitter, but Haley's private journal, partially recovered, calls it by another name, the knocker. She describes the sound as not mechanical, not alive, but something older, something that made the trench feel less like a void and more like a door. The climax of the file arrives in corrupted video fragments. The team, against protocol, lowered an ROV into the anomaly's coordinates. The descent was routine for the first 6 hours. Grainy video of darkness pierced by the vehicle's lights, sparse life drifting in currents. Then the audio surges, knocking, louder than before, reverberating so forcefully the ROV's chassis shuddered. The frame skips, glitches, then briefly clears. For less than 2 seconds, the feed shows an impossible sight. Not rock, not vent, but an expanse of smooth metallic surface, etched with repeating grooves, geometric and ordered, extending beyond the frame. Then, the feed collapses into static. The recovered logs end abruptly 40 minutes later. Athena's final entry is fragmentary, a single incomplete line. Knocks equals response cycle accelerating, predictive intervals decreasing, unknown sequence approaching sync with... The sentence cuts off. No further data survives. The Cassini never returned to port. No wreckage was recovered. Only the hard drive remained, drifting, retrieved by chance in fishing nets years later. So what was the source? Was it geological resonance mistaken for signal? A sonar feedback loop creating the illusion of pattern? Or was it, as some within the scientific community quietly suggest, evidence of a structure at the trench's base, something engineered, still functional, and still listening? We present this not as conclusion, but as fragment, a pattern, incomplete. If it was a code, no one has cracked it. If it was life, no one has classified it. If it was something else entirely, machine, relic, or gate, then the trench still holds its secret. This is Lost Lore AI. We archive the strange, the forgotten, the pieces of history that don't quite fit. What the Cassini crew found was not silence, but a knock that answered back. And so we ask you, what do you think waits in the trench?